Thanks for joining me today at Learnwake. My name is Brandon Judd, and I'm responding to a analysis request that's been submitted by Ditri. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is on some tantrum attempts, and in your submission here, you mentioned that you're having problems with your tantrum, that you used to land them, but then you started working on your back roll and lost your tantrum. And sometimes you land it to blind unintentionally, and you're trying to go higher with it, and you've tried everything but not really sure what is going to help make it work. You can jump on the trampoline and do a tantrum on the trampoline, no problem, and that sounds great. So I think you're on the right track. That's fantastic. Everything here is not super hard to fix, but it may require some off the water training to get you there. So let's talk a little bit about that. And before we get too far into the fix, let's just let everyone see what these look like. So I'm just going to play through these, and it looks like you're coming in on a nice approach, popping pretty high, but your rotation is just unintentional backside 180 in it. So we can definitely fix that. But your pop is good, your approach is good, everything else looks pretty good. Your width is inconsistent. It looks like sometimes you're landing on the second wake, sometimes you're going wake to wake, and sometimes you're doing it one wake. So I'd just be more aware of what you're planning on there. You also did mention, I noticed in the video comments, that the order of videos, the sequence is backwards. So this one that you landed was was earlier in the set, and then they got progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's very normal. Don't get down on yourself. When you notice that progression starting to happen, that it's just starting to get worse and worse, my recommendation is to abandon the trick completely, do something different. I use it as a good opportunity to work on some fundamentals that you're just slightly uncomfortable with, like some switch riding or something like that. It's just not worth trying to beat yourself up, and you end up practicing some of the wrong stuff and repeating incorrect things more and more, which helps you get stuck further in your rut. So when that happens in the future, just abandon the trick and come back to it later when you're feeling fresh. As for this, let's hop in here. I'm going to slow the speed down to about half speed so we can dive into this a little better. And we'll take a look at this one. This is a pretty good example, I think. So you edged in pretty nice, nice good hard edge, and then you flattened off. And let me see if I can get it paused at the right spot here. All right, here we go. So you're standing tall at the wake. This is your tripping position. Right now you are looking pretty aggressively toward the boat still, and this is where your problem lies, I think. You're looking at the boat as you take off, and then as you stand tall, you throw your upper body backwards into the flip, and you initiate the flip hard off the wake with your upper body. And then, because you're doing that backwards motion with your upper body and turning your head at the same time, so you go from looking at the boat toward looking away from the boat here, because of that twist when you're throwing your upper body back, that forces you into an uncontrollable backside 180, if that makes sense. So the fix is actually on the trampoline. You really want to be very aware of where you are in the air. So what I would do is I would do a backflip on the trampoline with a 180 to your right and a 180 to your left. And if possible, a back full would be great. Like a backflip 360 would be great. But at the very least, you should be able to do a backflip controlled in both directions, and have it really consistent on the trampoline. The reason I say that is if you start to flip in one direction on the water here, if you can feel yourself starting to go backside here, you can adjust in the air for that unintentional 180, and you can fix it instead of being at the mercy of your rotation here, if that makes sense. So that trampoline training will pay off big time, but once you've done that, a little bit of that training as well, I want you just to make sure that your head doesn't move so aggressively. So there's two parts of this. One, don't move your head so aggressively from the boat away from the boat. You want to kind of keep your face more toward shore almost, but just keep in your peripheral vision, keep the wake and the boat in your peripheral vision. But when you're standing tall at the wake, you shouldn't be looking too hard straight at the boat. And then when you stand up, make sure you don't look away from the boat. Make sure you look straight up toward the clouds. And if you're able to hold that upward position, it will be much less aggressive in throwing you backside. So that's the first thing, is your head. The second thing is your upper body. When you're flipping, right here, you're kind of crouched, and then you throw your upper body across the wakes. I would suggest don't do that. So try on the trampoline to go straight up and don't flip very much at all until the peak of your trick, and then flip at the top and then drop out of it. So that's the goal, is to just go up, not rush that flip at the beginning. Do a quick flip at the peak of the trick, and then you'll be able to drop out of it nice and easy. So looking at your correct version, that you did a little better, if this will load right, there you go. You were able to correct that with the handle. The line tension came back together for you and worked out. And it was a little better. It wasn't quite as exaggerated on some of those fronts. So you don't whip your head quite so hard. Instead of looking back at these trees, you're looking back kind of toward the sky, or up kind of at the sky. And just stay away from looking over one of your shoulders. You should just look straight up at the sky. And then that'll take you around nice and easy. So congrats on landing this thing. Let's just get it back to basics by being less aggressive with your upper body. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, just so that we can have a good frame of reference. So this is Kyle Schmidt doing a tantrum. I'm just going to play it once through, and then we're going to scroll through this. So you'll watch him square up and then flip nice and clean around the handle without that twist. So the key, and I'll show you right here, watch his head. Watch what he does with his eyes and with his head. So he stands nice and tall right here. As he comes up, it's not dramatic, and he just looks up at the clouds. I don't see the back of his head. Like, I see his ear the whole time, as he flips cleanly around the handle. And that is going to make it much, much easier for you in the long run. Another thing, watch his body. His chest doesn't get thrown across the wake. He goes more straight up and then flips. So he goes up and then flips and then drops out of it. So we just have to quiet down your takeoff. You're in the right position. Everything else looks good. I just don't want you to whip your head around and throw your chest into the flip. That will calm everything down and make everything a lot easier for you to control, so that this can become very consistent for you in the future. Good luck. Hopefully this works out for you. If you have any other hang-ups or struggles, feel free to submit another request, and we'll get right to it. Thanks again.